Okay, so we're in recording. Good morning again. This is Sandy Mislitz from the Capital Transportation Committee. This is the December Community Planner Forum. We have a few presentations today. I already walked through the meeting guidelines in terms of the mute. Share my screen as I'm going to be assisting one of our staff members with the presentation today. So the basics of the agenda, we are going to have presentations from Teresa LaSalle, who's going to talk about our transportation data to support community planning, to let folks in local government know what's available to them in terms of the things that we collect, as well as some other data from other organizations and entities that might be of interest related to transportation. Jen Sapanis is going to go over the draft public participation plan that is out for public review at the moment. And then Rima Shamia will be presenting and kind of giving an overview of her experience using the Hoosick Hillside linkage study as an example of planning during COVID-19 and the opportunities and challenges that that has presented. So with that, obviously we'll go over regional local planning updates. And then we'll talk about the 2021 meeting schedule as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Teresa to begin with the data presentation.
Okay, hello everyone. As Sandy noted, I'm going to give an overview of CDTC's GIS-based data inventories and online mapping applications. Next slide, please. Most of CDTC's GIS-based inventories are focused on bicycle and pedestrian-related infrastructure, and that is mainly what we'll be covering today. These include on-road bike routes, bike lanes, sharrows, cycle tracks, trails, sidewalks, and crosswalks. Additionally, CDTC collects and maintains data on pavement surface ratings, and our newest inventory is our signalized intersection inventory. Next slide. Our most extensive inventory is our regional sidewalk inventory. There are over 1,200 miles of sidewalk infrastructure in the region. We're probably closer to 1,250 at this point. We've been out collecting data during the pandemic and trying to get all of our databases updated. This project first began in 2014 as a pilot project with the city of Saratoga Springs, kind of a precursor to a linkage study that we were going to be doing there. And CDTC interns went out and collected presence absence data for both sidewalks and crosswalks within Saratoga. From this effort, we quickly learned that undertaking a regional inventory on both of these assets would be very time consuming and it would require a lot of intern and staff effort. So at that point, we decided to focus on sidewalks and proceed with the regional sidewalk inventory. Between 2015 and 2017, CDTC staff and interns collected data in the field and via aerial imagery for the presence and location of sidewalks within all 78 of our municipalities. And all municipalities in the region that contain sidewalk infrastructure, which is all but about 8 of our towns, received a data package with tabular data, mapping, and a written summary, as well as a GIS data file for those municipalities that could use that technology. This year, we reviewed updated aerial imagery for all 78 of our municipalities again for the presence of sidewalks and updated the inventory for sidewalks built and or captured in imagery within the last few years. So the map on the right, the red lines are showing you where sidewalks currently exist. And the charts break down of the regional sidewalk mileage, how it's distributed. So no surprise, 69% in the cities, 20% within towns, and 11% within villages. And then a similar, the bottom chart shows a similar distribution by county. 42% of the regional sidewalks are within Albany County, and the other 3 counties make up about 20% of the regional sidewalk inventory. Next slide.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry, Teresa.
That's okay.
Rose up there for a second. There you go.
CDTC has been collecting data on paved off-road multi-use trails for many years. We have the ability to collect trail alignments in the field using GPS data collectors. We also rely on aerial imagery and updates from our planning partners and municipalities to keep our inventory as current and extensive as possible. There are over 140 miles of off-road paved multi-use trails in CDT's planning area, and trails continue to be built. In fact, just in the last 2 weeks, I can say we have more than 140 miles because I've gone out and done field checks on portions of the Empire State Trail, particularly in Rensselaer County and a little bit in Schenectady County and Saratoga that have been built since. So this map on the right showing the purple lines is a little outdated, and hopefully we'll have an updated version of that soon. In addition to off-road trails, we also collect data on the alignment and routing of on-road bicycle routes, such as the on-road portions of regional trails like the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail and local trails such as the Cohoes Heritage Trail. We go out in the field and verify the routes using existing signage. Due to the temporary nature and material type of crosswalks, such as paint, and the extensive number within the region, it's been difficult to do a complete inventory, a complete regional inventory like we did for sidewalks. So we do have a partial inventory of that, and we try to keep it updated as time and needs allow. It's not regional, but it is intended to be useful for smaller study areas. Next slide. Our newest bike ped data inventory is our bicycle infrastructure inventory, which we started in late 2018. It's an effort to capture all existing bicycle infrastructure, which for the purposes of this inventory is defined as on the pavement physical bicycle treatments such as bike lanes, sharrows, and cycle tracks. Other bicycle facilities such as paved off-road trails, bike racks, roads designated as on-road bike routes, or bicycle-related signs on posts such as share the road signs are either captured in a separate inventory or are not inventoried at this time. So the map on the right is just, even though it's a regional inventory, it's because there isn't a ton of infrastructure, it's hard to show at a regional level. So I've done an inset here for Albany and Rensselaer counties existing bicycle infrastructure. When we started this inventory in 2018, there were limited treatments of this type within the region. However, these types of accommodations are growing in our region, and we now have at least 60 miles of bicycle infrastructure treatments within our planning area. Mostly are in the form of bike lanes and sharrows. This is a regional inventory, and like our sidewalk and trail inventories, it's updated as we learn of new infrastructure from various sources. The table on the left here shows that just in the last 2 years that we've been inventorying, in 1 year, the mileage has almost doubled. And it's a little misleading. We started out kind of doing centerline mileage, but sometimes the treatment is different on different sides of the road with the buffered bike lanes, or the from 2 points aren't the same. So we tried to get a little more detailed, but you can see the increase in bike lanes and buffered bike lanes and in sharrows. And again, I think this is missing a few things that are just, this was of December 4th. And since then, I think we've added a little bit as part of the Empire State Trail. Next slide. Some additional GIS-based data inventories that we have are pavement ratings. So we perform surface ratings on pavements using NISDOT's windshield survey method as part of our routine highway condition inventory. Historically, we have rated non-state federal aid roadways, and we also have several local inventories, local defined as non-federal aid. Our newest GIS-based data inventory is our signalized intersection inventory. This data set is a compilation of NISDOT Region 1 signal data and intersection data from NISDOT ALIS, or Accident Location Information System. This inventory I'm not as familiar with. This was put together by our newest staff member, Andrew. It's not something we went out in the field and collected data for. It's solely using the two GIS databases that Andrew combined. And right now, I think it has mostly data for the intersections, but we're looking to add some of that Region 1 signal data to it to give a little more detail about signals. So the map on the right is basically a screenshot of that map showing the location of signals within the region. Next slide. So in addition to our GIS-based data sets, we also have several online interactive mapping applications that we've produced over the last several years using the ArcGIS Online platform. Our most popular of these maps is a tip map. I believe we were one of the first, if not the first MPO in New York State to create an interactive online tip map. We also have created mapping applications for our linkage program. An image of that is on the right. Members of this group might be familiar with that. We're in the process of updating that, and you can expect an updated version of the linkage map for the March meeting. We also have interactive maps of our priority networks, which are used in our tip merit evaluation and for various other projects. All of the online mapping applications that are regional in nature can be accessed via our CDTC maps and data page on our website. I've included the link to that on this slide. And I should note that these applications may not work or may have limited functionality in Internet Explorer. Next slide. So now I'm going to go through a demo of one of these. I'm going to demo, not a live demo. I'm going to use screenshots to go through CDTC's online interactive tip mapping application. And I'm going to start with the icons on the left of the application's default view. So the image on the left is what you will see when you open the application. If you hover over a tool, it will provide you with a description. So the legend tool, circled in red, displays projects by project type, as you can see on the image on the right side of the screen. There are two main categories, point-based or linear-based, and they are further symbolized by project category, for example, bridge or transit. So a point-based project is going to be something like a bridge or an intersection, or maybe signage, something to that effect. And a linear project is going to be, you know, a trail or a pavement reconstruction, more of a linear-based project. Next slide. The layers list tool, circled in red, allows you to turn layers on and off. So there's only the only point layer, the only project layers are the points and the linear. And then we have a few additional layers like boundary lines for munis, which you probably don't want to turn off. But this just allows you, if you just want to look at things that are more point-based or linear-based, you can control that. Next slide. The base map gallery tool, circled in red, this allows the user to change base maps. And you'll see there's many choices. That we use the default map of the light gray to really make the symbol stand out and pop. And I've shown one of the other base map examples here on the right side that provides a little more detail. But imagery is one of the most popular ones to turn on because at the zoomed in level, you know, it's going to show you exactly, you know, what's there in real life. Next slide. The search by location tool, circled in red, this tool allows you to search and zoom to a location such as a municipality. So if you just want to look at projects within the town of Clifton Park, when you start to type in something such as Clifton Park, you'll get a few choices. In this instance, I just chose Clifton Park and it zoomed to part of the town, but not to the whole town. But one of the choices there is, I believe, Clifton Park town. And if you do that, it will zoom to the actual extent of the municipality. But even if you did this, then you can pan around and see all the projects within a certain municipality. Next slide. In addition to the tools on the left sidebar, there are several additional tools in the map view, circled in red. Again, if you hover over a tool, it provides a description. On the left, the plus and minus signs allow you to zoom in and out, and the home button returns you to the default extent, which is the 4-county region. The crosshair button zooms to your location. The segmented square puts the application in full screen mode, and the left and right facing arrows allow you to navigate back and forth between extents. On the right, the I About button produces a pop-up that provides information on the application, as well as links to CDTC's website. The detailed tip project listings, CDTC's full tip document, and a link to regional and transit projects that may not be mapped. So for some of the regional and transit projects, they're not location specific enough to be mapped. So those, if you're looking for that type of project and it's not on the map, you can find it in those listings. Next slide. And finally, the thing I think that is most useful that most people are going to use is the best way to obtain project information is to click on a pointer line and a pop-up will appear with information regarding the project as well as a direct link to CDTC's TIP project listing, and if relevant, a direct link to NISDOT's project listing. So NISDOT's project listing, that'll take you to their construction projects in your neighborhood application, which I'll touch on later in the presentation. At this, unfortunately, you can't search for a project by CDTC project or a NISDOT PIN number. However, labels do appear. Once you are zoomed in, screenshot on the right will show that once you zoom into a certain level, the CDTC project number will appear. Next slide. So those were internal data sources that we have. In addition to what we collect ourselves, we also use data to inform the planning process from outside sources and our planning partners. A few examples are the NISDOT, which provides some more detail on in the next slide, and roadway and bridge data from NISDOT, and traffic volume data from NISDOT, which is available to the public on the State GIS Data Clearinghouse. Next slide. So the ALICE, the Accident Location Information System crash data, that database contains location data for crashes based on reports from both police and motorists. Municipalities can request access to this data via the link provided. The map shows the location of pedestrian crashes involving fatalities or injuries in the last 5 years in our region. And I should note that in 2021, ALICE will be replaced by an upgraded system that will be known as CLEAR, the Crash Location Engineering and Analysis Repository. And Sandy is actually the best person to get in touch with regarding that data. Next slide. And then additional external interactive mapping applications that you can link to right from our CDTC maps and data page under our partners maps. Those are mostly DOT content. You can see here there's a few others, but the DOT in particular, ones that may be useful to our members are the Functional Classification and National Highway System Viewer, the Traffic Data Viewer, which contains traffic volume data. That also has undergone an upgrade recently and is the best way to get the most recent volume data. And I believe that one now allows you to download shape files directly. And then the Roadway Inventory System Viewer and the construction projects in your neighborhood map. That map is the one that if there's a DOT listing on the tip, sometimes, not always, but sometimes they'll have a link. You can link from our tip application to their detailed project listing, and I'll show you more details and the status of that project and whether it's on time. And next slide. And with that is all I have for you today. If you have any questions, please, regarding data or mapping applications, please direct those to me. I've included my email there. I am exclusively working from home, so email is the best way to reach me, but you know, if need be, we can have a phone conversation. So if you have any data requests, or if you'd like to submit any data to CDTC to help us build our data inventories, especially bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure data, that would be greatly appreciated. And I am all set.
Thank you, Teresa. Any questions for Teresa? Okay. Thank you for that overview.
Sandy, I'll be staying on for the whole meeting. So if somebody thinks of a question or wants to put anything in the chat, I'll be available.
Great, thank you, appreciate it. Obviously, with the recording of this meeting, we'll post this on our YouTube channel. I know a lot of people appear to not have been able to make it today, so we'll let everybody know in the region that they're interested in this topic. It will be there for them, so thanks. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the overview of the draft public participation plan. Jen, I'll turn it over to you and you can share your screen at any time.
Sure. Okay, are you able to see it?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Okay, great. So one of the major New Vision's 2050 goals is to expand public participation, make sure that we're reaching more people, making sure that CDTC is being innovative and really going that extra mile to connect with people who have not, traditionally been involved in the planning process. So we have released a draft update to the public participation plan, and in it's on our website, and there's information about it in the news section of our website. But the plan has, a basic introduction on what our goals are, the purpose of the plan, and what CDTC's strategy is. One new thing about our plan is the creating community connections toolkit, which really lays out a variety of strategies, both of which we've used and those of which we would like to use. And we invite our members and local governments, if they would like to take a look and maybe use it themselves. It breaks down like different strategies, like a meeting in the box or focus groups or a demo, and then talks about or gives some idea of how much time they require, how much resources as far as funding, to really help understand and integrate these strategies into the scope of public participation. It also outlines all of CDTC's continuous participation opportunities. So this includes like our newsletter, our meetings that are open to the public. And these are things that we're always looking to expand so that we can connect with people on a regular basis. And again, other CDTC products that help us connect with the public, and then a strategy for how we'll continue to assess and measure our progress. So the purpose of the plan is to create a seamless and integrated process of communicating with the public on transportation planning initiatives and providing continuous opportunities for the public to provide feedback. We've traditionally have really used the linkage program as our major public participation vehicle. And we've expanded by, we have a newsletter that we release regularly. Our website has been updated and is way more engaging and looks great. We try to go to events. Obviously, this last year has been more difficult, but we hope to be able to get out and go to events and connect with people more. And we've slowly expanded social media, which is something we continue to work on. But being able to really create content that is meaningful and connects with people on a regular basis is important and something we're working on. So the goal is to establish a thorough, inclusive process that uses creative approaches to offer the public continuous opportunities to shape the region's transportation system. Again, we're going to measure our progress by the quantity and quality of our public engagement. And one of the emphasis areas of this is equity and developing public participation through that equity lens, not just equity as a standalone thing within a project, but just weaving it into everything, doing the EJ scan in the beginning and really making sure that it is a priority in all different steps of a project scope. So we've touched on these. These are the big changes from the last plan that we released in 2015. Really, the public participation toolkit and the emphasis on equity are the biggest changes. The toolkit, again, it has 20 different participation ideas. There's some guidance for integrating virtual public involvement, which we've been experimenting with and getting more familiar and comfortable with these last few months. But it also provides non-virtual methods for how to connect with people who may not have reliable access to the internet or reliable devices. And then, of course, partner opportunities. There are a lot of organizations in the region that we have worked with and that have helped us connect with people, like libraries and Capital Roots and food banks. So the policy board approved the draft at the December meeting. It is out for public comment. There's a 45-day public comment period, so we are accepting comments through January 18th. And we have scheduled 2 virtual forums. Tuesday, January 5th, there'll be one in the afternoon and one in the evening. Registration information is again on our website. We will record these and have these available on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel so people can see these presentations if they can't attend these 2 times. Comments are being accepted. They can be emailed, or we also have a virtual voicemail box, which allows people to text a comment or leave a voicemail. So you can text a comment through a regular cell phone, or you can leave a voicemail from any phone, including a landline phone. So that's it for the public participation plan update. If anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer anything regarding public participation.
Jen, this is Adam Migelski. Thank you. I just had a quick question about the voicemail and text. What is the platform you guys are using to do that?
So we're using Google Voice. CDTC has, a Google account that we use to manage some of our other social media accounts. So we just set it up on there. It's free and it's pretty easy to use.
Cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Jen? Okay, thanks, Jen. As part of the email following this meeting, I'll resend the dates of the 2 workshops and the deadline for the comments. Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item on our agenda is related. Rima Shamia is just going to talk about recent experience of doing public engagement during a planning process during COVID-19. So Rima, I'll turn it over to you. And if you have slides, you can share your screen.
Thanks. Can you see my slide?
We can.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Rima Shamia. I think I know most of you. Transportation planner at CDTC. I was the project manager for the Hoosick Hillside study, which was a linkage project that's wrapping up. Absolute final presentation will be at the planning committee meeting next month, which I think is the 6th, January 6th. So that presentation will be more of sort of like a technical presentation of the project. I'm going to be talking mostly about public engagement today. So let's figure out how to forward my slides. There. So today I'm going to do a brief overview of the project recommendations, but talk more in depth about public engagement. And some of you might have seen the recommendations covered in more depth and the overall process covered at the Bike Ped Advisory Committee meeting too. So real quickly, study purpose was to identify ways to improve the bike and pedestrian connectivity between the Hillside North and Hillside South neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods to Hillside, to Hoosick Street, to the river, and to downtown. Also looking at ways to calm the traffic in the neighborhoods. They're reporting a lot of cut-through traffic, people trying to sort of bypass the chaos on Hoosick Street, and then to improve safety for all users, but especially bikes and cyclists and pedestrians. So the study area comprised this region that's enclosed by the dotted line, the Hoosick Street corridor, the area under the Collar City Bridge, and then the Hillside North neighborhood and the Hillside South neighborhoods that are sort of bisected by Hoosick Street. Here's a shot of Hoosick Street as it's descending under the, or between the ramps to the Collar City Bridge. Just a little bit of information about the, the scale of the traffic activity on Hoosick Street. Between 8th and 10th Street, we get 42,000 average annual daily traffic, and between 10th Street and 15th, it's 29,000 with about 5-6% of heavy vehicle traffic, and it is a minor freight corridor. So this is our recommendations. There's a lot here. I was actually very pleased with the types of recommendations that came out of this plan. There's a lot of really strong ones. I was trying to identify key recommendations, and it wasn't so easy. I picked 3. It leaves out a lot. I encourage everyone to go and take a, especially if you have an interest in Troy, to go take a look at the study and the recommendations, as I think there's a lot of implementable ideas here that would have a significant impact on the connectivity and safety of and the quality of life of the neighborhoods and peds and pedestrians and cyclists. So here's 3 of them. The Hoosick Median recommendation to put in a median between 6th and 10th. So here's, just to orient you a little bit, here's the beginning of the bridge. Here's Hoosick Street coming up from below. Here's 8th Street. Here's 9th Street. Here's 10th Street. So this is really a big snarl of traffic and activity, people trying to jostle to get onto the bridge and trying to get through the traffic as quickly as possible. Currently there is no pedestrian crosswalk at 8th. And there is none at 9th, but there is one at 10th. However, currently there's no pedestrian refuge at 10th. So this recommendation is proposing to put a median from 8th to 10th, blocking left turn access onto 9th Street, and to make 9th Street a 2-way street instead of a 1-way street. Putting in pedestrian refuges at 10th and adding a crosswalk with a ped refuge at 8th. And then some other minor things like bulb outs at 8th to shorten this crossing length. And part of this recommendation is to reconfigure the segment of Hoosick Street from 10th to 8th to reduce it to 2 lanes. The lane configuration at 10th is kind of muddled and inefficient. So it would just be sort of like cleaning that up a little bit. So it would be a win for cars as well. And that would also help reduce left turn conflicts for pedestrians and conflicts with cars as the pedestrians are walking along Hoosick. So another recommendation was to add active park space under the bridge. There would be a shared use path connection from River Street to 8th Street, so along that entire length under the bridge, and it would come up between the ramps and link up to this new crossing intersection. So it would come up all the way through, and so people can cross here. Raised intersections at River Street and 6th Avenue as a traffic calming measure and to indicate as sort of a gateway treatment. And then a bunch of quality of life amenities, pillar treatments, active parklets, a synthetic turf field, a skate park, climbing structures, and a bunch more ball courts and exercise equipment and landmark structures at the new BRT stop, et cetera, et cetera. So the last one I'm going to highlight before moving on to public engagement is the 6th Avenue complete street treatment. So looking at adding bike lanes from J Street to Hoosick Street and reconfiguring the geometry of the intersection on the on-ramp onto the College City Bridge. So eliminating some slip lanes, adding a 1-way bike lane. And then what's not shown here is on the other side of Hoosick Street on 6th Avenue, the proposed treatment is a 2-way cycle track. But the configuration of the street is a little bit tricky, and we determined that it needed additional study to really figure out how to do that effectively. So pre-COVID public engagement, we held a resident meeting, we held a business meeting. There was a TRIP stakeholder meeting. TRIP is a sort of neighborhood development nonprofit that works very closely in the neighborhoods. And then we had a community survey. So I'm going to talk about principally about these two events that we held. So the resident meeting, this photo is a little bit misleading because nobody is sitting in the front row, but the room is actually quite packed. People are stuffed back in the background even. So we had a really good turnout for that meeting, about over 60 participants. And some components that made that meeting successful was we got volunteers to go door to door with flyers on Hillside South. So basically, you know, in that side of the neighborhood, every residential door got a flyer notifying them of the meeting. TRIP handed out flyers on Hillside North. We collaborated with the neighborhood nonprofits and interest groups and used their social media and their email lists. We posted flyers throughout the study area at businesses, such as the Stewart's on the corner of, I think it's 10th and Hoosick, in a very prominent spot, which gets a lot of activity, including pedestrians, not just cars. And then we held the meeting at a centrally located, well-visited community center, the Oakwood Community Center. It's right at the corner of, I think it's 10th and Hoosick. And it's very well known, sort of everybody stops in there. And then at the meeting, we offered childcare and snacks. So there were at least 3 families with small children who came to that meeting and used the childcare. So I consider that to be a big success and sort of a mark of, you know, childcare is one of those things that we sort of hear about as something that is a barrier for access for lower income folks and people with small kids. And, you know, it wasn't that heavy of a lift to fulfill that need. The sub who worked on the project, you know, just like found 1 or 2 teenagers and paid them a couple of bucks to come and, like, you know, play with kids for an hour. And it worked really well. So at the meeting, there was a facilitated full group discussion that was people got really into it, and it was a really good discussion. And then there were facilitated breakout groups with maps that people are able to mark up. And there was a 1-page survey that was available for people to fill out as well. So after that meeting, we were contacted by TRIP, and they asked for an additional meeting specifically for some of their stakeholders that lived in the Hillside North neighborhood, because they felt like those residents felt like there were some issues that didn't really get sufficient attention at the residential meeting. So we responded to that, scheduled another meeting, invited those folks to come and sit down and talk about stuff that's happening specifically in their portion of the study area. And that revealed some really, you know, useful information about some of the issues that they were facing in their, you know, sort of their neck of the woods that wasn't touched on before. So that was a really helpful thing to do. And then, so post-COVID, you know, we got the first half of our public engagement done initially, and then we went to the ideation phase, started developing ideas on recommendations, you know, took all of that data, processed it and crunched it, and started formulating recommendations. And then we were going to go back to the community with a 3-hour open house style presentation, you know, sort of that people can sort of walk through and peruse displays of different recommendations throughout the study area and respond to it in sort of more of a casual, like, dialogue. And obviously we weren't able to do that. So we had to pivot like everybody else. And we ultimately opted to do a join at your own pace pre-recorded presentation of the study recommendations. This was something that I was apprehensive about. You know, there's no, like, great perfect solution to this issue that we were facing, but you know, I was really wanting something that was more interactive and engaging. And I felt like, you know, people weren't going to want to sit down and watch a 15 or 20 minute pre-recorded presentation, that wasn't going to draw people in. And, you know, I'm happy to say that I was wrong. We got 508 unique visits and 58 survey submissions in response to that pre-recorded video. So some things that we did to drum up interest and attention to the video was we did a direct mailing to all the addresses in the study area. That consultants put together a postcard letting people know that it was available and that there was a survey available, and urge them to go and you know, take a look at all those materials and then respond to it. We came up with these posters, like large format posters that we posted in at least one in each of the areas of the study area, notifying people that the presentation was up and that the survey was available and to go take a look at it. And then we do, you know, sort of more of the typical email blast and press release, and got a really good response from that. And it was clear from the survey responses that people really looked at this information. They looked at the video, they took a look at the draft, and took time to respond. So this is just the beginning slide of the online presentation. We recorded it using Zoom. I mean, it's basically just kind of what we're doing now, but a little bit rehearsed and then recorded and posted. And it was about, I think, 17 minutes long. So that was what we did in a nutshell.
No, thanks.
You have any questions? What's that?
No, thank you. I think you answered the one question that we had, which was how was the video accessed via YouTube?
It was posted on the website. I believe it was a YouTube link. And then it was like embedded into the website. So we directed everyone to the website to click on the link so we could kind of track traffic.
Great. Any other questions for Rima? You know, I have to agree. I was skeptical myself about how many people would take the time to sit down and watch a pre-recorded video. But as I think we're learning, you know, people's lives are so busy that if they are interested in a subject like this, you know, having a pre-recorded video at a time of day where they have the opportunity to watch it does make a lot of sense. So I think, you know, it's something for us all to think about in terms of planning. You know, when there's a comprehensive planning process in your community or whatever it might be, you know, those traditional methods of people coming to a room and providing feedback might be one tool in your toolbox. Having pre-recorded, you know, videos. I was even thinking as as folks were presenting in this meeting today, we could chop up this video and have little pieces available on the public involvement plan, on our data resources. That could be something that's stored. You could blast it out on social media. So technology is definitely allowing us to have a lot more flexibility. The only, you know, question that I would have, Rima, and I don't know if you can answer this, is demographically speaking, do you feel like the virtual tools got to the populations you were most concerned about in that area?
Yeah, so we didn't collect demographic information from, you know, there's no way to know like who's clicking on that video link. And I don't believe we asked, we could have, I should go back and check, but I don't believe that we asked demographic information for people who filled out the survey, just to try to keep the questions as limited as possible so that people will fill it out. Yeah, so it's hard to say, but given the diversity of the neighborhoods that we were targeting, and given that the you know, the outreach the notification for the video was very targeted. You know, we didn't do like citywide blasts. We blasted the neighborhood specifically. So, you know, everybody got a postcard, like every single person, you know, and the businesses too. Everybody got a postcard. The posters were posted throughout the community. The nonprofit, like the Oakwood Community Center and TRIP and Capital Roots, like they, you know, helped amplify that. I'm sorry, not Capital Roots, I think it was TAP. So TRIP, TAP, and the Oakwood Community Center, you know, sort of amplified the voice. So we're really targeting this specific neighborhood. But, you know, to your point, yeah, we're not exactly sure like who, you know, was it just like all the white people in the neighborhood that replied, or was it more of a mix? We're not really sure. But what I really liked about this process that we did is, you know, we used this technology platform that we had available to us through Zoom and embedded it, you know, used that technology piece, but then we also used this really low tech avenues of outreach. You know, we did a direct mailing, like how much like more basic or old fashioned could you possibly get? And we like literally printed posters and hung them up, you know, like it's very basic. And it worked really well. So, you know, that was a lesson learned for me. Like, let's not discount these, you know, these ways. Like technology is not always the solution.
Absolutely. We had another question. Did youth participation drive some of the parks concepts?
No, not really. It was like neighborhood input. The idea of having a skate park has been sort of percolating in the neighborhood for a long time now. There is actually sort of like a DIY, like, you know, renegade who just went down there and like built a skate ramp, like down under the bridge. So there's definitely a demand for it. I'm not sure where I can't remember off the top of my head where that sort of that percolation movement push was coming from, if it was coming from the youth or where it was coming from, but it's clear that there's a demand for it.
Great. Another question came in. Were there any issues with the door-to-door delivery of the flyers? This person is under the understanding that you can't leave flyers in mailboxes.
I don't know where they left them because it was a volunteer thing. But so I don't know where they put them.
And another question, if you're willing to put your PowerPoint back up with the slide of the park area underneath the bridge, the person's asking, it's a little unclear to them what will actually be under the bridge. Looks like a lot of vegetation.
Yeah, you know, I didn't want to focus too much on the, let's see, I don't think I can make it any bigger. Sorry, hold on.
It's okay.
Yeah, so this shared use path goes between the two ramps. Oh wait, am I sharing? Can you see that? Okay. This shared use path goes between the two ramps. So it gets sunlight. So you would be able to plant some vegetation there. Right now, it's just part of the street. The street's something like 45 feet in width. It's pretty large, a large area to work with. So there's that. And then, you know, so if you could see this faint dotted line here, that indicates where the bridge is. So, you know, if you're looking at like this vegetation here, you know, would get sunlight. This vegetation here would get sunlight, and here as well. And then this green would be a synthetic turf field, like a futsal field, is what was proposed with a jogging track around it. Does that answer your question?
Hopefully it did. Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Rima? Okay, great. I know she has given, her consultant team has given this presentation on the more detailed recommendations previously, but if you are in.
Looks like Sandy froze up. Sandy, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you froze up for a second.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I guess the internet is a little today with the snow. So as I was saying, the details of the Hoosick Street study are available through the recent Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting. And then again, we'll be giving a presentation to our planning committee on January 6th. So you can tune into that. So thank you. Thank you, Rima. Thank you, Jen. And thank you, Teresa, for your presentations. I'm going to share my screen one more time to review the remaining agenda items quickly. First of all, and I'll have Rima speak to this a little bit as well. As part of the New York Upstate Chapter Planning Conference, which was a virtual conference held this fall, one of the main themes of the conference related to planning and equity. And Rima in particular was heavily involved in the organization of the sessions for that conference this year, but 3 of them I think would be of interest to our planners community-wide here in the region that had to deal with, again, this issue of planning and equity.
Oh, she froze up again.
Can you see me now?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, out of my control, unfortunately. In the agenda, I had the 3 video links to the 3 webinars that I thought would be of interest to this group. Understanding Systemic Racism in the Planning Field, How to Be an Anti-Racism Planner, and Planning While Black, a Young Professionals panel. Were really well done presentations with some really timely topics. Rima, did you want to elaborate at all on any of them?
Yeah, sure. So the first 2, Understanding Systemic Racism in the Planning Field and How to Be an Anti-Racism Planner, were delivered by Daniel Lim. He is a practitioner who his firm focuses on working with planning firms, planning entities, organizations, and I think nonprofits, but primarily planning. He has a planning background himself. And looking at how they can address their sort of systemic and institutional structures and modify them so that they are more equitable and more inclusive and increases the diversity of voices in those organizations. So he looks at equity in the planning field from a systemic sort of organizational perspective. So we brought him in as a keynote speaker. The first one, Understanding Systemic Racism, is an hour. All 3 of them qualify for CM credits if you're AICP. And then How to Be an Anti-Racism Planner was sort of structured more as more of a sort of an interactive workshop. We had breakout sessions, and that is ethics CM credit eligible. It's an hour-and-a-half session, and you're eligible for the credits even with the recordings for now. And then Planning While Black was moderated by Dr. Johanna Rogers, and she moderated a discussion with 3 Black women planners who are recent graduates of the U Albany Planning Department, our master's program, and just talked, and they discussed their experiences as professionals who are Black and who are women in the planning field, and the issues that they deal with on a regular basis, given that they have those intersectional identities. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I thought they were really, really excellent really excellent sessions. And we focused on this topic of systemic racism and like anti-racism activity, because it hasn't been something that's really been discussed in the Upstate Planning Chapter conferences in the past. So we thought that this was a good time to start having these conversations. And they're free. The chapter made them available for free. So go take advantage of free CM credits.
Absolutely. They're definitely worth your time if you do have some time to take a look at those. Very timely. Thank you, Rima, for that. Okay, moving on to the remaining agenda, our regional, state, and local planning updates. Just quickly, the linkage program solicitation closed yesterday. We're still, because of the snow, trying to determine how many applications we actually got. Until I get in the office, I won't know for sure. We believe we received 4, but you know, sometimes people drop a thumb drive with their hard copies. So we'll find out at the planning committee meeting in January how many we received. The technical assistance program is still open. I think we're going to be closing submissions at the end of this month, end of December. But we'll likely be bringing that program back in 2021 during the new fiscal year, which starts April 1st. The Complete Streets workshops, I believe we have a applicant that may be coming in for the remaining slot for this current round. But again, the Complete Street workshops have largely become an annual program. So again, after April 1st, we'll likely solicit for those again. The Smart Community solicitation remains open. And Jen, I don't know if you want to elaborate on a little bit more of what we're looking for. We haven't had much interest, as far as I'm aware, in this program this year. But you know, again, that program is really geared toward bridging the gap between planning and technology, and thinking about, you know, whether it be smart signals or, you know, LEDs, lighting in your community, things that advance. I watched a whole presentation yesterday from New York City on their connected vehicle pilot program, and the amount of technology that had to be installed to do this pilot project was really eye-opening. So, you know, this is something that will be evolving, but, you know, Jenna, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Sure. You know, we've heard from communities that technology is something that they're interested in, and they get a lot of calls and emails from technology vendors, but that there's kind of like a lacking of resources or support in kind of, you know, figuring out how to use that technology, whether it's in operations or in the planning process. So, you know, this is a fairly new program, but we're just offering some funding support to help communities to do this. Last year, we supported the city of Saratoga Springs in developing a guidebook for converting their streetlights to LEDs, and then what other technologies can be applied to improve with traffic safety, EV charging, sensors for public safety. There's really a real broad range of technologies that are available now and are being integrated into signals and lighting and other things. So if you have an idea or questions, but don't know if it's eligible or if it fits, please feel free to reach out to me. Like Sandy said, the program's still open. We've gotten some questions, but no one has applied yet this year.
Great, thanks, Jen. Another program that remains open, we have one, I believe funding for one more project is our ADA transition plan support. You know, if anyone is interested in pursuing some data collection for ADA transition plans or undertaking a little bit of transition planning, you know, reach out to Carrie Ward at our office. She's leading that program. And the final thing that is literally hot off the presses, because Jen sent the email this morning, is the announcement of the what we're calling the Capital Coexist mini grant program. This Capital Coexist 2.0. So this, as you may recall, is the program that supports educational and training initiatives related to safety programming and projects in your community. What we've done this year, which is new, and why we're referring to it as 2.0, is we've expanded the list of eligible options to go beyond just bicycle and pedestrian safety. Looking at our local road safety action plan, we pulled all of the different emphasis areas from that plan into the Capital Coexist programming. So if you're dealing with youth issue, if you're dealing with an older driver issue, if you're dealing with a problem at an intersection, you know, all of these types of things are now eligible. So the cap on each project is $5,000. We have $25,000 available. And all of the information is posted on CDTC's website with a submission deadline of January 29th. So I will follow up, you know, with an email to the broader group here with this announcement of this opportunity. But again, I think we're looking for innovative programs and innovative educational projects that kind of go beyond sort of the normal things we've been doing. We understand that, again, the COVID crisis is going to probably have a huge impact on in-person opportunities. So we are also being flexible and allowing for some virtual trainings, as we saw some through the presentation this morning. There's many ways you can do things virtually. So, you know, if you can get creative and have some good ideas, maybe something that benefits your own community or alternatively may benefit the region as a whole. So take a look at that, that opportunity. And if you have any questions on that program, of course, reach out to Jen. And I should also mention that we did create a companion guide to sort of provide some ideas and food for thought in terms of the different types of projects that you could undertake as part of that program. So that guide is also available for your reference. Moving on to other training and workshop opportunities. Again, CDRPC's planning and zoning webinar series continues with monthly topics on a wide variety of planning topics, really trying to get to the planning board members, zoning board officials, and others. And then our New Visions learning series continues. The next session, Jen, is January. Remind me, do you remember off the top of your head?
January 19th.
January 19th. And again, that's a monthly series, and you can always watch back the webinars on our YouTube channel. And any other events that we have going on will be published, obviously, on our meetings calendar on CDTC's website, as well as on CDRPC's news and events pages. Any questions about local planning or anything else regarding local planning or state planning that anyone wanted to mention today? I know we have a small group today. Okay, hearing none. For the 2021 meeting schedule, I've already established our dates for the 2021 calendar year. What I will do for this year is I'm going to develop Outlook meeting calendar requests, if you will. I forget the correct terminology for that, but so that way this is already plugged into your calendars. You can always accept and reject your attendance to the meeting as needed. Our next meeting will be scheduled for St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 9:30 a.m. Wear your green. Make sure you have some Irish coffee. No, I'm just totally kidding. And we'll hopefully have a number of updates on a number of initiatives going on in the region. Teresa already mentioned one. We'll talk about the updated linkage map, which will have some additional features applied to it, and some other things going on in the region. In the meantime, if anyone who participates in this group regularly has any local planning issues or items that they'd like to either get feedback from in terms of how other communities are grappling with a subject, or something that you've been struggling with in your own community, please let me know. We'll try to address that as best we can. I think our technical assistance program is another area we'll be providing some presentations on next year. And with that, I think that's all I had. Any other questions or thoughts from anyone today? Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time this morning to participate. I know for many people, it appears that the snow may have hampered their involvement, but be careful as you're digging out today. It looks like we do have a mountain of snow outside. And we are guaranteed for those that celebrate a white Christmas. So enjoy the rest of your holiday season, everyone. Be safe.
Skills.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Let me just